Welcome to Work from the Inside Out, a podcast that highlights real-life stories, practical strategies, and best practices for transitioning your career from unhappiness and dissatisfaction to fulfillment, meaning, and joy. Now here is your host, career and executive coach, Tammy Guler-Loeb.
Hey, everybody. I am so excited to introduce today's guest, Devon Harris. Devon was raised in a violent ghetto environment in Kingston, Jamaica. He is a graduate of the prestigious Royal Military Academy, Sandhurst in England. He served as an officer in the Jamaica Defense Force, retiring as a captain. Devon is a founding member of the first Jamaican bobsled team, which competed in the 1988 Olympic Games in Calgary, Canada. Their exploits inspired the Disney movie Cool Runnings. Devon also competed and was captain of the 1992 and the 1998 Olympic teams. He's a philanthropist, creating the Keep On Pushing Foundation, which aims to support and enhance the education of kids in disadvantaged areas. At the heart of Devon's message as a motivational speaker are the lessons he has learned of the power of persistence over all sorts of obstacles in order to live one's best life. He is the author of the motivational children's book, Yes, I Can, and the semi-autobiographical motivational book, Keep On Pushing, Hot Lessons from Cool Runnings. Please join me in welcoming Devon Harris. Welcome, Devon.
Tammy, what a pleasure. Thank you for having me. It's great to be able to hang out with you.
It is. I am so excited to have you here today. And as you know, Devon, on Work from the Inside Out, we like to start with the earlier years of someone's life to learn a little bit about what kind of foundations were laid or what some of those earlier years were like for you and how they might have led up to all the adventures you've had in your life since then, because we know you've had a very interesting career.
My early years were spent with my grandmother in rural Jamaica on the kind of southern end of the island, little rural district. And the thing I remember most about my grandmother was the fact that she was this amazing storyteller. And the stories that had the greatest impact on me were the ones she told me about soldiers and these amazing things they could do, this feat they could perform and not get hurt. And I'm like, oh my God, I don't know if I can do that, but I love to do it. So those stories inspired me to want to become a soldier, but more importantly, they inspired me to want to do things that other people thought were incredibly difficult, if not impossible. And that had somehow, connected with something inside of me, and I just kind of grown over the years. So those early years spent there, and then I moved back to Kingston, where I was born, and I was raised in Olympic Gardens of all places. Right?
Oh, isn't that funny?
Yeah.
And that was probably before you had a glimmer in your eye, right? For the Olympics.
Yeah, absolutely. Didn't know what the Olympics were or anything. But the thing about Olympic Gardens was that it was a really rough and tough, very challenging environment, violent, impoverished. So we kind of grew up in that environment where everybody was poor and dealing with violence. But school has always been a haven for me. I loved being in school, not a rose color by any stretch of the imagination, but I did crack a book or two. And, and I absolutely loved the fact that I could play, man. I mean, school was where I got to play. I love playing and discovered sports. Soccer was my first love. And just kind of learned right almost out the gate that regardless of what life was like off the soccer field. When I was on the field, it was all about what I brought, what you brought to the table there, like my heart, my determination against yours, and made the best man win in that perspective. So I kind of fell in love with sports then and there. I was always competitive. So I was competitive in the classroom. I was competitive on the sports field, and that, followed me to high school. And, when I was 15 is when I discovered the Olympics.
Uh-huh.
Well, actually, and by that I mean that's when the desire to compete in the Olympics were born. Now, ABC
For you.
Wild World
For you.
For me, yeah.
Okay.
ABC Wild World of Sports had a series on TV called Road to Moscow. It was 1979, the year before the Moscow Olympics, and they were highlighting athletes from around the world, different disciplines and obviously nationalities and so on, telling their stories, telling their sporting life, as well as stories about their personal life. And how when you think of Olympic athletes, you think of these superhuman beings.
Yeah.
And what I saw in those series were very average and ordinary people. But they had extraordinary dreams, and they had an equally extraordinary desire to go make those dreams a reality. And so that's when it dawned on me, like, wow, anybody could become an Olympian, obviously within reason. You need that as a talent. But outside of that, if you dare to dream that extraordinarily and then backed up that dream with the work, with the sacrifice, with the commitment. And so that's when I decided that I wanted to become an Olympian.
Wow.
And it kind of grew from there.
So at 15, you could see that in these people you saw on TV, in these profiles of people on the road to Moscow, and something just touched you, and you saw these ordinary people who had this extraordinary dream. You saw their drive, you saw the sacrifice and the commitment they were making, and it just pulled something. It pulled you in a way.
Yeah, I think it connected with that seed that my grandmother had sown through those stories. That you can do things that are difficult and impossible. I'm like, okay, all I have to do is work. So
all I have to do is work.
I have had some lazy spells in my life, but I'm not afraid of hard work at all.
Yes.
Right. So as I grew up in Olympic Gardens and became a teenager, and I still wanted to join the army, I realized, hey, I don't necessarily have to be an enlisted man. I could become an officer. That's more difficult. Young men from my neck of the woods don't become army officers.
No, they don't.
But I have the story in my head. I have the seed that has been planted. So
how did you do that then? If young men from your neck of the woods, so to speak, didn't become officers, how did you make that happen?
You do the work, right? So you stay in school and you crack a book or two and learn what's inside the books. And we have an educational system that's similar to the British system. So that's kind of what we went through. So I did these exams from University of Cambridge, and on the strength of those passes, now you can go apply to become an officer, right? So you have to get that basic, framework, so to speak, those basic qualifications. And then you go and you do this rigorous 3-day selection process, which is really where they're testing your mettle. So all the stuff I did in school really only gave me a ticket to the dance, right? Can you dance? That's the question. Right?
Well, clearly you were able to dance, but you'd made a very conscious decision at a fairly young age that you were going to go the officer route. Yeah, and you found out what you needed to do to get there.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So this was all very intentional on your part.
It was very intentional. I didn't have a plan B. I didn't have no, this was it.
Plan A was the only way to go.
I tried to think of a plan B. I couldn't come up with one. This was it, man. This was my ticket.
I love it.
Because one, it's really what I wanted. And then from a practical standpoint, in my mind, it was the quickest way out of the ghettos. So this had to happen because I really had no interest of hanging around in the ghetto longer than I needed to.
Sure. And were there people supporting you in this, encouraging you or supporting you or even pushing you in this direction, or was this all on your own volition?
All on my own. I mean, there was nobody pushing me. My parents, provided, a home and a support in the home. It was clear from the beginning. I think at the end there, when I did pass my exams, my dad goes, "You don't want to go to the university to study chemistry or something?" I'm like, "No, I hate chemistry." No, I'm gonna go join the army. So just a couple of, I remember in my final year, sixth form, it's kind of like 13th grade. I did French, and we had French festival, and I won best actor and that kind of stuff. And I remember the guidance counselor saying to me, "Devon, I see you on the stage." And I actually was so taken aback by the idea of me being on the stage, right? And I just kind of smile and go, "No, miss, I'm going to go join the army." A few years ago, after I'd written my book, Keep On Pushing, I went back to Jamaica for a book launch, and she came, and I reminded her, and I'm like, "Well, miss, guess what? I am on the stage now."
Yes, you are. Yes.
So I guess we were both right.
So take us forward. There were so many things, it sounds like, that were happening at once. There you were, a 15-year-old, getting inspired by the road to Moscow. You also now set your sights on becoming an officer in the army. You were, a competitive athlete, and all these things going on at once. What was the convergence of all these things in your life, and how did they go forward for you?
School was I mentioned before, was my haven in elementary school, certainly so in high school. So school was where all of this came together, right? Where I could take care of business in the classroom, so to speak.
Yes.
And that was, so, I am obviously more well known for being an Olympic athlete than a military officer. And, what I realized in today's world, when someone like me from the beginnings that I had, made it, so to speak, and there's no sports, people think, oh, that he saw that as his way out. And that's not true. For me, the military was my way out.
Yes.
The sports was bonus.
Yeah.
So that was a thing that, like, I know I needed, to pass this many subjects to be able to get a ticket to the dance. And so that was the focus. And then, oh yeah, the Olympics. So, let's go for it as well. So all of that happened in school.
It did.
And and that kept me out of the neighborhood as well, right? So I was in school all the time, and really, you could describe it as a safe environment, as an environment that supported those desires, those dreams. And so that's where I chose to hang out.
So you went into the army though after school, or were you also in school? I'm kind of wondering about the timing.
No. So I have to go. So after school, so after I graduated, like, okay,
that makes sense.
Came back, I'm like, okay, cool, I have it. Can I now have my ticket? And they're like, okay, yeah, come, let's see if you can dance.
Right. That makes sense. But you also then kept your sights on the Olympics while you were in the army. Am I right about that?
Yeah. So after, I had this crazy idea that I wanted to compete in the '84 Olympics while I was still in high school. Did not even come close.
Oh, okay.
Didn't come anywhere remotely close to that.
But you tried.
I didn't develop, and I didn't go to the team. I did not develop in the way that I needed to develop to get there. So that I drew blank there. But again, the army was the main focus. So, all attention turned to the army, and I'm like, okay. So if you fast forward, I joined the army at the end of '84, and now we're in the middle of 1987. I'm now an army officer. I'm 21 years old, and I'm like, so what are you going to do the rest of your life? I'm having this intense conversation with myself. I'm like, you're an army officer now, what? Oh yeah, the Olympics. They're coming up next year.
Next year. So not even that far off, right?
No, it was summer of 87, and the Olympics are coming up in Seoul, Korea in the summer of 88. And the thing about dreams, Tammy, is that you don't have to have a clue about whether or not you can accomplish them. You can just dream them and then go after them and see what happens. And so I look back now, and I think I had a better chance of making the Jamaica bobsled team than going to the Summer Olympics, but I didn't know that then. So I just started training. I just started trying to get fit in the only way I know how, which is just to go run. I know now that was woefully inadequate, but hey, the universe opened things for you when you move,
Right. So at that point though, you didn't have any notions of doing a bobsledding. You were just you were running, and you were thinking about running for the Olympics, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. And so round about that time, two Americans came up with the idea to start the bobsled team. And I'd gone to run in a cross-country race. Not many people knew I was an athlete. When I came back from Sandhurst, I was limping around Barrett's because I jumped out of a plane and broke my ankle.
Oh, gee.
So don't judge me. I used to be young and foolish, okay? So
what'd you do that for?
I don't, and I didn't have to do it. I begged and begged and begged, and they go, okay, fine, go. And I broke my ankle on my second jump.
Ooh.
Haven't done it since, learned my lesson, but so I was just running, and then I go run this cross-country race, and I finished 14 from 40, and they're like, oh my God, he's fit. So the bobsled team idea came around, and the colonel had all these enlisted men going to the team trials. And there's a philosophy in the Army that says officers must always participate. So he thought he'd send his young, fit officer to make up numbers. But and so I could have just gone and competed like the colonel told me to, and I would have fulfilled that obligation. But I am not wired that way. I'm not wired as one who's just going to go participate. I mean, to be honest, I was not excited or interested in bobsledding when I first heard. But the minute he told me I'm going to the team trials, now the question becomes, how do I make the team? Because that's my only focus. How do I make the team? I was what I described at the time as Army fit. I could walk 100 miles with 50 pounds on my back and a rifle in my hand. I didn't think I was sports fit. And so, that was like, oh my God, I don't know how I'm going to make this team, but I just have to. And so, yeah, the work comes in. I just went there and just worked my darnest, man. I worked really, really hard. And I think in the end, they liked my smile and they selected me.
Well, I can understand why they'd like your smile. But I have a feeling it took a little more than that, wouldn't you say? Yeah. I'm curious. I get the feeling that he could have told you that these were team trials for almost anything, and you would have jumped at it. It didn't almost. If I'm getting this right, it could have been any sport. You would have done it for the Olympics.
Yeah. Well, like I said, I'm competitive, and so where am I? I can't go just to have fun. That's a party. What's that?
Well, I think this is your version of fun, though, isn't it?
Ask my kids; they'll tell you, "Daddy, you're so competitive. Why do you have to win?" I'm like, winning is fun.
Try it. You'll like it, right?
I say that too. I'm like, winning is fun.
Winning is fun. Give it a try. Now, I just want to go back a couple of one step. And did it, at the moment when this was put in front of you by your colonel, the notion of bobsledding, it wasn't like this was something that is done in Jamaica. Some Americans showed up and said they wanted to form a bobsled team from Jamaica. Did you stop and say, huh? Why from Jamaica?
When I first heard, I like, man, this I remember saying this is one of the most absurd, ridiculous idea ever conceived by man. And I added, nobody could ever get me to go on one of those things. I'm like, so all the questions that people ask, how are you going to train? This is Jamaica. And then this was in the summer of 87. The Olympics were in February 88. It's like, how do you even begin to learn this thing,
That's
right?
less than a year. That's less than a year.
Exactly. But then, like I said, this was a game changer. Once I knew I was going to the team trials, it's like, well, all of those reasons why this couldn't happen didn't matter. They went out the window.
Sure. But did you ever find out why they wanted to make this happen?
Oh, well, so they, in the movie.
Well, the movie Cool Runnings, right?
Right, Cool Runnings, right. Sanka Coffees races this wooden cart down a winding mountain road, pushcart derby, we call it.
Yeah.
We actually have that in Jamaica. So these guys saw it, two crazy guys going down the side of a hill in a cart, except for the ice, kind of look like bobsledding. And then they discovered that a big part of a bobsled race is the start. You need sprinters. We have lots of sprinters. But the guys on the summer team didn't want to do it. So he, in the movie, was doing something that we actually do in Jamaica.
Mm.
And that's what the guys saw. And they go, that's kind of like bobsledding.
Oh, so they saw kind of the parallel skills and the abilities that could parallel bobsledding. Except
that in real life, it's not even true. It's the only similarity is that it's a cart going on the side of a mountain, and it's two guys in it. But that's where the similarities end, because the steering mechanism, everything about bobsledding is different on pushcart.
And so while we're on this topic, let our listeners understand that and this was a question I asked you before we hit record. I was, of course, wanting to know, as many people do, to what degree is the movie Cool Runnings really aligned with what really happened in your life that year?
Yeah. So I often say that, when the credits roll, it says something about based on the true story of the Jamaican bobsled team. And I think two words are missing there, very loosely. It's very loosely on the true story. Hollywood took a lot of poetic licensing with the movie. They stretched the truth to make it funny. Then in other instances, they just made up truths, right? So like the scene with Sanka Coffee in the ice cream truck, acclimatized, did not happen, I promise you, right?
Yeah.
The scene at the start where they're selecting the team and then they show the crashes to a room full of potential sledders, and then the room was empty. In real life, there were maybe about 40 of us.
Oh, wow.
We watched crashes. Some of them were way worse than you saw in the movie. Way worse.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
The one that stands out in my mind is 4 bodies along the track, blood everywhere, and the driver is decapitated. And So, and I'm sitting there wondering, what the hell am I getting myself into?
I could see you wondering about that. Ooh, that's scary.
Yeah, exactly. And then the next day, only about 20 people turned up. They're like, I don't want any part of that. I want to keep my head,
Ooh.
So yeah.
Ooh. Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you need that. To be honest, you needed that kind of reality check, because it's not a sport for the faint of heart at all.
No, I think most of us who've watched it can see that for sure. I'm not sure we've seen some of the things you've seen for sure. I think the other part of this that I was deeply concerned about was how you might have been treated or welcomed by your fellow athletes once you arrived at the Olympics that year. And you cleared that up for me. Why don't you tell our listeners a little bit about how that really happened?
Yeah, it's one of the popular questions I'm asked, actually. And no, so none of the stuff, none of the belittling with the East Germans took place. First of all, who do want to belittle Jamaicans? We are so cool.
I agree.
Everybody wants to hang with us, right? And then I have to admit, there's the other side of us where we don't take crap from nobody. So nobody's going to do that and get away with it, So, see, the yin and yang.
Yeah.
But generally speaking, though, athletes don't, from my observations, that athletes don't treat each other that way. There may be two athletes who hate each other or two teams who are going against each other, but not in the way that it's portrayed in the movie.
Yeah, it was portrayed at a very deep, disrespectful level that was, I mean, I found it devastating, quite frankly. I was like, this is a Disney movie?
Well, movies have to create tension and conflict, and I think that's what they were doing. From my experience, I talk about us being at the Olympics and just, working overtime, watching other teams, trying to figure out what they're doing, what we possibly pick up, to help us get better in that short space of time. But at the same time, kind of soaking in the environment. This was our first big race. We had never been to a world championship. The Olympic Games were the first time we're seeing the big names in our sport, if you can imagine. So you kind of wide-eyed and bushy-tailed, just, soaking it in. And I remember sitting there in the warm house, just looking around, and the guy who was the number one driver in the world happens to be East German. He was right next to me preparing to go down the track. And I'm just kind of looking around. And then he just paused, smiled, and handed me an East German pin. The worst part of the story is that I have no idea where the pin is. But to me, that was like, hey, welcome to the brotherhood. Welcome to bobsled.
Yeah.
And there's a dude that I've seen over the years on the circuit. I don't know how good his English is. We just kind of say the cursory hi. And I have when he finally retired, he was in Nagano, my last Olympic Games, and I was walking the track. I saw him and we took a picture, and really
that's
cool.
That's nice.
Yeah.
Oh, I was so happy to hear that it really didn't happen that way. As the movie portrayed. So when you reflect on all of that, I mean, it at the time it must have felt surreal.
That's a good way to put it. Absolutely. I mean, then on so many different levels. I mean, if you imagine that, 5 months earlier, we didn't even know what bobsledding was. We could only tell you it was a winter sport and it was fast and dangerous. That's all I could have told you about it. And now here I am at the Olympic Games, realizing a dream, but in a really special way, being part of a team that never existed before. And then we weren't really thinking in terms of the fact that we're blazing new trails, but I guess you had to feel that in your bones nonetheless, and I'm more aware of it now than I am then. But then just knowing as an athlete that you've been selected to represent your country, and now you have to compete and be at your best, but you know that you're so far behind the 8 ball, you feel like you need to not let up and just keep working, keep watching others to try and learn anything.
Yeah.
And then just trying to soak in the entire experience, you're meeting people who under normal circumstances you'd never meet.
Right.
All of that. And we're talking about my early beginnings and the fact that I'm, from one of the roughest neighborhoods. So imagine it was such a meteoric rise, so to speak. Like, here it is. Only 3 years prior was firmly planted in the middle of the ghettos. And here I am now, not just at the Olympics, but as a Jamaican bobsledder, which just added 10 stars to that experience,
Yeah.
It was like just trying to soak in all of this and figure out who's this dude I'm seeing in the mirror in the morning,
It must have been. I mean, I just can't even begin to imagine the juxtaposition your life went through in months, mere months. And then And then from there, you went on to compete in 2 subsequent Olympics. So what happened to your life after that? You were still in the Army too, right?
That's the thing. It was quite ordinary, pretty routine in the sense that I go bobsledding, and I'm this bobsled superstar, so to speak, giving autographs and giving interviews, and then I would go back to Jamaica. I take my bobsled uniform off. I put my Army uniform back on, and I went to work.
Just like that.
This is it, man. So, in a way, I saw I saw bobsledding as an extension of my Army career. I'm representing my country. I'm serving my country. And so, you can't not do bobsledding and not have it and just pretend like it didn't happen. So that was always at the back of your mind, and people obviously not allowing you to forget that. Sometimes I call Mr. Bobsled and, that kind of stuff. But it's like, I'm back, and I love that. I love being in uniform. I love serving. I loved, one of the ways that we were used, and I often say I love going on the streets to go find the bad boys. I love that. I'm really as gung-ho as they come when it comes on to that, and then when it's time to go bobsledding, I'm off again.
So did you know after 88, did you know that you would be back on the team again, or that you would at least be going back to the team trials again for the following?
We knew, heading into 88, because people were like, oh, there are jokers and kind of one-hit wonder, and that's something we wanted to disprove. So we had the intention of coming back. And after the crash in 88, we knew we were coming back.
Yeah.
There was no way we were going to go that way. Now, in 88, I was a pusher. I was a number 2 guy in that 4-man sled. But I wanted to become a driver. So if we go back to the beginning and doing the things that are more difficult, right? Again, the way I'm wired. When we were having the team trials, the brakemen had to score more than the drivers. And knowing nothing about the sport, you assume then if you have to score more, if the brakemen have to score more, then that's an important role on the sled. So I wanted to be a brakeman. And then I got in the sport and I realized that the driver was actually the more important position. The brakeman needed to score more because that was a more athletic position. And so then I'm like, oh, can I be a driver?
You just wanted to be the most important one.
Exactly, and but I also knew that first year I was too scared to drive. It wasn't going to happen that first year. So after Calgary, then I became a driver, and so it was really special being able to be a driver in the '92 Olympics.
I see. You were too scared? I never thought I'd hear those words out of your mouth.
People think I'm joking. Like my first run, I was so scared. Oh, I just remember saying, you know what? If I die, I die. But I'm going. I was that determined to go. I was like, I'm not coming here and not going down this. And I'm if I die, I die, But here we go. So, and that was what I needed to say to just get me to go.
So that was in '96. You were the driver then, right?
No. So we had 88, 92, I was a driver. I became a driver in 92.
Okay.
And then there were no Winter Olympics in 96. There was a Summer Olympics, but they had made a switch. So there was another Olympic Games in 94 in Lillehammer. I missed those games and then went back again in 98.
Oh, okay. You weren't in the Army all those years, were you?
I was, I left the Army in 92, December. So in all those years I was, and then I moved to New York at the end of 92. So I was here just trying to figure out life in America.
I see. You moved to New York in 92 after the Olympic Games.
After the Olympics and my time in the Army.
Yeah. And so in between Olympic Games, I assume you were working out, you were training, you were What were you doing all that time?
So I moved here actually to study hospitality management.
Ah,
I wanted to get into the hotel business, travel and, meet people and that kind of stuff. And I worked my first 18 months, I worked in a restaurant, in the back of a restaurant as a cook in the Bronx. And then I ended up after that working for another 18 months or so in retail. So I would go to work and go to school at night.
oh, wow.
But I could not shake the bobsled bug, man. I couldn't get it out of my system. So I decided, you know what, I'm gonna go back to the Olympics. So I would go to especially when I started working in retail, I would train in the mornings and then go to work. For the first 18 months, and then the last 9 months, I would go to work and then I go train in the evenings. All with a mind that, focus of getting back to the Olympics. And then it got to the point where it was do or die, it was go time, and I dropped everything and went back into training full time. I have no idea how I did that.
No?
I don't know, man. I ended up in Evanston, Wyoming, in the summer of 97, training 8 hours a day, delivering pizzas at night.
Wow.
Yeah.
You did everything you had to do.
I did everything I had to do. Completely.
So you lived in the Bronx. You worked as a cook. Then you worked in retail. You were working out. It sounds like at some point during that time, you had thought about not going back to the Olympics. Am I getting that right? Because it sounds like you couldn't get it out of your system. Were you trying to get it out of your system?
In the beginning, when I first moved there, I'm like, it's not even real.
Why? Why would you say that to yourself?
Because I'm trying to get on with my new life, get on, go to school and become a general manager in a hotel or something. I'm like, you need to forget about this bobsled thing. It's not even real. Forget about the army. You're not in it anymore. Kind of, it wouldn't leave me. It would not leave me. So is either you continue fighting that battle or you just embrace it. So I embraced it.
So were you trying to be
normal?
Trying to say, no, I don't mean normal. Normal is kind of, okay. I was thinking more like, okay, you've had your fun. Now it's time to kind of do, adult things or be a grown up, or like, what was the story you were telling yourself about? It sounds like you were trying to fit this round peg into a square hole or something.
Yeah, it wasn't so much, you have had your fun, but more, okay, so you did this thing. This is a new chapter in your life. Let's move on to the next.
And
next
what were you calling that chapter?
It's a really good question. I don't know. I just kind of knew that I just kind of wanted to. So as I sat in the army there thinking about what am I going to do with the rest of my life? And then I came up with the idea to do hospitality management. It all didn't fit. I couldn't go bobsledding and be in college, getting a hospitality degree. And just like, okay, so let's focus on this now. Let's focus on the hospitality thing, and which means that you have to push bobsledding to the side. And bobsledding refused to go. Bobsledding was just it because understand that I still didn't end up winning an Olympic medal, but I so believed that I had the ability to do it, and I hadn't done it yet, and I couldn't not try.
Right.
In the end, that's what it really came down to. Because understand that and to this day, if I have a regret about my athletic career, is the fact that I never really had the chance to train the way I know I needed to train. Certainly at 92 is like, I'm still not there. I need to do all of this, and I couldn't shake it. So I went for it.
So you were trying to shake it though by doing this sort of regular person thing.
Yeah. Exactly.
And I guess that's why I'm kind of pushing you on this, because I'm thinking, gee, that doesn't sound like the person I've been talking to just now.
No, so I think you're absolutely right. And when I talk about resilience, I talk about the fact that all of us are susceptible to those moments. Like you'll always have people who are telling you can't do this or you shouldn't do this. This is how your life should be.
Right.
But sometimes you will be going through certain experiences that create that kind of self-talk.
Yes.
And you now have to catch yourself and go, no, but you're so much better than this. And in the end, that's what it came out. That's what came out. It's like, I'm like, it's not even real. And then, but then the other voice is like, what are you talking about? No, you don't listen to him, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And so good sense wins. I think we all go through those moments.
I agree. I mean, I think we test ourselves, right?
Mm-hmm. I think we have those moments of doubt,
sure.
and those moments and those are some real tests, right? Are you going to get past these doubts,
right?
And take and embrace the challenge that's ahead,
right. So, what do you think really got you when you said you couldn't shake it off? What really got you to step back into getting ready for the Olympics? What was there a turning point, or did you just get tired of hearing yourself think about it?
I think it's a process. It's a process where, I mean, I think we all have to, quote unquote, get real with ourselves. And so in that process of, it didn't feel right. This idea of, I'm just gonna, close this chapter, batter it up, boom, boom, boom. Nobody sees, and it did not sit well, right? So what do? I just embrace it. I'm like, all right, so this is who I am, and I'm gonna go do this thing. Let's see where it takes me.
Yeah.
Oh my God, was it difficult?
Which part was difficult?
All of it. I mean, so yeah, because by the funding, so I'm here and I'm working, and I'm basically barely making ends meet, and I'm kind of scraping my way up, and I think I finally got to a point where, at the end of the month, I had a little savings left. I wasn't underwater anymore. The water was just below my nose, kind of thing. And I had a family now. I had 3 kids.
Oh my goodness.
And then you get to the point in the calendar where you go, man, if I don't make this move to the Olympics now, it's never happening.
Yeah.
So having struggled to get to a point where you can tread above water, you dive head first into this thing where just, and so it's difficult. So you're training, there's no sponsorship. I'm injured. I still have financial responsibility because I have a family,
right?
And you're juggling all of this and trying to stay positive and focus and get into the Olympic Games. So yeah, all of it was difficult.
I hear you. Yeah. Your life was very, very different at that point. You had other people who were counting on you, and it was just a whole different. It wasn't just about you anymore.
Exactly. In 88, 92, it was just me. And I had a salary. I was in the Army. Life was awesome.
Right. You had a salary. Right. Yeah.
Like I didn't have to worry about, having money or a place to live or that kind of stuff. I was in the Army.
It was all provided.
Here I am out in the big bad world trying to learn all of this thing, learn to write proposals and make sponsorship pitches, things I'd never done before.
Yeah. Yeah. But you did it.
We didn't have the internet then to go do a Google search. So,
A what?
So what my Google search was? When I ran out of ideas, honestly, I would get a notepad and I'd walk into a supermarket and I'd walk down the aisle and I'd write down the labels of the things on the shelf.
Uh-huh.
And then, I'm going to write to this one, I'm going to write. And then after a while, you realize, oh my God, it's like was a handful of companies that own all of these things. I've been to them before.
You know, in coaching, we have a phrase that we use when we think about what you were doing. A lot of the things that you've done, actually, we say that you're creative, resourceful, and whole.
Yeah.
And that's what you were doing. You were being creative, resourceful, and whole. And I mean, it sounds like you had your family's support at that point.
Yes, I did. Luckily, luckily they weren't going, you need to go get a job. It's like,
well,
I don't know how that would work out because
there's no way you could have done it otherwise. I can't imagine, right?
Absolutely not.
So that, I think that's an important point too, that these things don't just happen in a vacuum. You really had to have, I mean, other than the financial support that you were trying to gather, you had to have certain people in your life who were willing to really see that this was something you had to do. And so you did it.
I was saying earlier that, I love to see that clip of me marching the opening ceremony in Nagano. My friends you had the biggest grin on your face. And what I remember is, as I marched in the opening ceremonies, I looked around to the guys and I'm like, I'm enjoying this because it was so difficult to get done.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I was like, I'm enjoying this, man. This in itself is victory.
Yeah. Oh, that's great. That's great.
Having done all the work to get to Nagano, I kind of felt like I'd created this foundation on which to build to the next Salt Lake City, which would absolutely have been my last. But there was just so much turmoil and politics on the team. And I have no doubt that had I stuck it out, I would have competed in Salt Lake City. But my interest was not just to be a 4-time Olympian. I wanted the opportunity to really hone in and focus on the training the way I believed you needed to train in order to have a shot at winning a medal. And since I was spending so much energy fighting with the administration and so on, I'm like, this is not I am going to get to the Olympics, but not in the way that I want to.
Yeah.
That wasn't going to get me to where I wanted to be. So I'm like, all right, fine.
It sort of sounds like, what you were saying a little while ago. It's like, you've got all these skills, you can be really strong, but there's a point where the heart has to be in it too. And it sounds like there was a piece of your heart that would have been almost chewed up and spit out or something by the politics of the situation or something. Like there was a piece of it that just wasn't going to fit for you.
No, I've never thought of it or articulated it that way, but you're right. I mean, I know how to fight. Don't get me wrong, right?
Yeah.
But it's like, it requires. I've never won a medal, but I'm pretty sure if you ask anyone who's won a medal, they'll tell you of the sole focus on that. Right?
Yeah.
And like, can't afford to have all of this extraneous things going on, right? I know what it takes to get to the Olympic Games. I can get there. But how do I get to the next level, man?
Right.
And this was all of this. I'd gone through 4 years of that turmoil. Yeah. And I'm like, I don't care what, I am getting to Nagano. And I got there. But to do that again for another 4 years just to be a 4-time Olympian wasn't worth it. I wanted to get to Salt Lake in a state that says, you know what, I have a legitimate shot at winning. And if I didn't win, you know what? Yeah, but you gave it your best shot.
Yeah.
That's how I saw it.
Well, it sounds like you made a choice that left you feeling very much grounded within yourself.
Yeah, completely.
Yeah.
I'm good.
Absolutely. I get that. And so you went in the direction of motivational speaking, and that sounds like that was the beginning of a life that you've continued with to this day. Am I right?
Indeed.
So tell us about what you've been doing since then.
Right. So, before I went off to Nagano, this dude I met who wanted to be my agent told me about this thing called motivational speaking. I'm like, oh, that sounds good. I'll do it after the Olympics. And so after the Olympics, I came back and I started speaking, and, nobody booed. And,
Nobody booed.
the father said I inspired them, and that was encouraging. And it just felt so right. It just fit. It's like, and I look back on my life and I realized, I've always been doing this. I've always kind of worked hard and encouraged others to do the same. That's what it is, right?
Yes.
And so I've just continued doing it, and in the process, wrote a couple of books, and as you mentioned, started the foundation and so on. Because I think it's all about this idea of, connecting with your purpose, making an impact in the world. That's my goal. So when I'm on stage, my goal is not just to entertain and make people laugh. Yes.
Right.
But then for them to go out in the world and go live their dreams and hence inspire others as well.
Right. Right. So you want to have that kind of impact that really calls them to be their best selves out there in the world.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
When did you start your foundation? Tell us a little bit about that as well.
So my foundation got started in 2006. I'd gone back to Jamaica, went to the old neighborhood, my elementary school, and in having a conversation with the principal, I asked, what was the biggest challenge you're having here? And it was that kids were coming to school hungry. Mm-hmm. And if you're hungry, you can't learn. If you don't learn, you're not educated. And then if you're not educated, it's really difficult for you to be a contributing citizen in society. And being from that environment, I immediately resonated with that, right? I'm one of those kids.
Right.
And I, as we spoke earlier about, after high school, looking to go join the army, and that, I had no plan B. That was the plan. But there was this real possibility that I would not have made the grade. And what I remember feeling is this sense of despair, like, oh my God, what do I do if this doesn't work? So my goal is just to help these kids prepare as best as they can, get as educated as they can, so that they will have some sense of hope, that they won't necessarily feel that despair that I had, because they feel that, they had the opportunity, they have done the work, and now they can go off in the world. Mm-hmm. So that's how the foundation got started. So we've supported a breakfast program at the school. We have served maybe 6,000 kids now.
Wow.
We just 2 years ago built what we call a sick bay. It's kind of like a nurse's station.
Oh, wow.
A private area for the guidance counselor to, work with some of those kids who need that kind of intervention. Mm-hmm. And we're in the process now of establishing a computer lab at the school, which will be used for the kids in the school, but also double as I'm calling it a digital academy for the young people in the community as well.
Oh, fabulous. Yeah.
So,
nice.
So yeah, been working on those things.
And does the foundation take contributions from external sources, or how do you support that?
So I'll tell you, keeponpushing.org. Find us. Absolutely. Yeah. I've had, small donations from people who will find us and send us some funds. And Great. I've had support from some of my speaking clients as well. So they have been very
Excellent.
helpful.
All right. We will make sure that goes in the show notes so that people know that they can contribute to that. That sounds wonderful. It sounds like you've done some amazing things, not only for the school, but for the community there.
I am one of them.
I understand.
I would have loved if I was there for, some dude from that community to come back and help. What I know is that we have all benefited from people who have gone ahead of us, right? You hear the term pay it forward. I'm pretty sure that all of us have benefited, and we'll never know who that person is, but somebody helped somebody who helped the person who helped you.
Right.
in
That's
whatever
right.
way it is, so
Yeah.
again, it's about impact, it's about connecting with your purpose. And I kind of see that as an important thing.
Absolutely. And tell us what else, how else can people find out about what else you're doing these days? Or
I claim I'm the easiest guy to find. Devon if you type in my devonharris.com, and that takes you to my website that speaks about my speaking, all the different programs, the idea that I challenge and encourage people to keep on pushing, which is really about this idea of continuous growth, this dynamic process through which we transform ourselves and the people around us. And then you just don't give up.
Yeah.
You're persistent towards your goals. That's where you'll find information on my books, some free tools as well, newsletter,
Wonderful.
podcast, and
you have, yes, you have a podcast. Tell us about the podcast.
Oh, well, you know how creative I am. It's called Keep On Pushing.
I love it. I love the name.
And I'm looking forward to having you come on and share at some stage.
I can't wait. I can't wait.
So the podcast came about, COVID hit, and, I travel and speak, and the speaking stages were closed down. Okay, let's start this. So I started the podcast. I started out interviewing Olympic athletes because I know that word. I never interviewed anybody before.
I see.
And I'm like, okay, well, I understand the world of Olympic athletes. So let me start there. So, and then as I thought about it, I'm like, there are people from all walks of life that have a success story. Those moments when they had to push past a challenge or stretch their comfort zone. So I wanted to hear those stories as well. So
yeah,
started to cast a wider net. And
I love it. So I want to wrap up with one question for you. And that is, if you had to give somebody one key piece of advice about making a transition in their life, a career transition, what would be a key piece of advice you would give them?
A good question. I would say, first of all, take your time to figure out what you want to transition to. I've been there. There's the good book says, seek and you shall find. And I think everybody seek, but they kind of look once. And it didn't say that. It just said you need to keep seeking, until you think you have found. And I remember when I was trying to figure out what I'm going to do if I left the army, I just kept searching and searching and searching. And maybe that first thing that you decide upon, which is after considering and searching and considering this thing deliberately, may not be the thing you end up doing. Like me, I did not end up doing hospitality management. What it does, though, is it puts you in the direction that you want to go.
That's right.
And you can't know that then. But, be deliberate. Be as deliberate as you can in trying to figure out what that is. What does that thing that you're going to decide on, does it feel good? Does it feel right? Does it fit?
Yes.
Right? Because when it fits, then you go, okay, I have my direction. I have the thing that I need to focus on. And that gets you to start doing the work, regardless of how difficult. It's going to be difficult, by the way. Mm-hmm.
Yes.
But, it feels right. So you're like, okay, this is what I'm going to do. And then you go after it. But always with an open mind. I think it's really important to be open to new experiences and new challenges. I think if you are, all of us will be okay.
That was wonderful. Thank you so much, Devon. I am thrilled to have had you here today, and I look forward to our next conversation already. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. And thank you for the work you're doing, putting out, this amazing content that encourage your listeners, your audience to continue to support and share it, spread the message.
Thank you. I hope you were as inspired as I was with my interview with Devon Harris. It was so interesting to speak with him about his personal and professional journey. What is your key takeaway from our interview? If you are interested in any of the resources mentioned in today's podcast, you can find them on the blog page of my website at www.tammygoulerloeb.com. Just look for episode 166. Are you thinking about what your next professional move might be? Maybe you're feeling a little stuck. I'd love it if you picked up my new book, Work from the Inside Out, Break Through 9 Common Obstacles and Design a Career That Fulfills You. It's available in print and digital ebook editions through my website, Amazon Worldwide, Barnes & Noble, independent bookstores, or you can request it through your local library. If you were inspired by this episode with Devon, please share it with your friends and colleagues. And please do subscribe so you don't miss next week's show. Remember, subscribing is always free. Are you enjoying the podcast? I'd be so grateful to see your review on Apple Podcasts. It's easy to find through my website at www.tammygoulerloeb.com. Just click on the Apple Podcast button and follow the instructions provided there. Thank you so much for listening. And remember, it's never too late or too impossible to increase your sense of fulfillment and satisfaction in your work and other meaningful activities. I'd love to hear how things are going for you. Feel free to drop me a line. Bye for now.
Thank you for listening to the Work from the Inside Out podcast. For more information, you can find us at www.workfromtheinsideout.com.